to be bringing us more on Virginia Roberts and her fascinating story. But first, we understand that there's a breaking development in the Epstein case that has to do with how he is going to be jailed.
That's right. So his bail request was initially denied about 2 weeks ago. But since then, his lawyers asked the judge if he could be released on bail and effectively go into house arrest, where he'd be watched closely by his own private security guards that he would pay for out of pocket. So that wasn't denied outright, but a federal appeals court decision that came out today basically prohibits any such cushy arrangements. So this wasn't a case about Jeffrey Epstein, but it's going to make it harder. This is a federal appeals court case that came out of Brooklyn, New York.
Let's just stop and talk about this for a minute, okay? Because this is crazy. This is Chapo-esque, right? This is Goodfellas. Did you see the movie? Goodfellas, The Godfather, where gangsters back in the old days literally controlled the prison. They literally were running things. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we obviously good for this court decision to make this decision.
They basically said, hey, look, the law does not permit a two-tiered bail system.
Right.
So these kinds of cushy arrangements are not permissible.
Poor people get guards and rich people get their own security detail.
Exactly.
No, not in America. Okay, moving on. Virginia, tell us about her.
Sure. So one of the alleged victims of Jeffrey Epstein, her name is Virginia Roberts Jeffrey. She says that she was forced to have sex with Jeffrey Epstein multiple times. And in her sworn court affidavit, she says that both Jeffrey and his, you could say, partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, basically trained her every day. She said it was kind of like school. So here's her on what it was like to be that young. She was 16 years old at the time. Here's exactly how she described the process.
You're just thrown into a world that you don't understand, and you don't know how to, you're screaming on the inside, and you don't know how to let it come out. And you just become this numb figure who refuses to feel and refuses to speak and refuses, all you do is obey. That's it.
Wow, obey.
And not only was she trained to and forced to obey Jeffrey Epstein, but ultimately she had to then do what she trained to do for Jeffrey for other people. She says that eventually she was taken to one of Jeffrey Epstein's private islands and had to perform sexual acts.
And I basically had to do what I did for Jeffrey for him. So it's very private. It's the perfect world for a billionaire getting away with what he was doing. He could hold big parties there and have huge orgies there, and nobody would have any idea what was going on because it was so quiet and so protected. You know, before you know it, I'm being lent out to politicians and to academics and to people that royalty.
Now, she says that two of the men that she was forced to have sex with were Alan Dershowitz as well as Prince Andrew. Now, with Dershowitz, she says in her sworn court affidavit that she had to have sex with him at least 6 times. And the first time she was just 16 years old, and this went on until she was age 19. But when asked on CBS this morning, Alan Dershowitz, let's take a listen to what he had to say. He says he has no idea that had he known, he would have turned him in. And here's what else he said. He says, we were shocked by the allegations. But as a criminal lawyer, being shocked by an allegation doesn't mean I won't defend somebody. So that's him defending himself. And here's what he had to say about Virginia Roberts Jeffrey. He says, this is a woman with a long, long record of lying for money.
This is an amazing story. This new thing in the Times today, transhumanism. What the hell is this all about?
So transhumanism is essentially the idea that we can perfect the human genome. And the way that Jeffrey and others thought of doing this, according to sources in the New York Times, is through things like artificial intelligence. So a lot of people are calling it modern-day eugenics. And Jeffrey repeatedly, apparently, according to sources in the Times, talked about perfecting the human genome. And on multiple occasions, he spoke to others about how he wanted to inseminate children with his sperm and actually have them impregnated and carry his children on one of his private islands.
But as sick as this may sound, it makes him a different person. It makes him a scientist with a plan instead of just a sick pedophile. My gut, my journalistic antenna say this is the kind of story that could very well be planted by some of the people who surround Jeffrey Epstein to get us to talk about something else. Just a gut feeling on that.
It's possible, yeah. We definitely don't know the whole story, and it's worth noting that some of the sources in the Times are anonymous.
Thank you so much, Michelle Greenstein, as usual. Good